So as I said, Christina Moore and I were out in LaGrange from Friday night into pretty much all day Saturday on a retreat. And I came home and Lisa shared this story with me about Abby, that she had just this phenomenal experience when they went out just to run some errands. They were down here over on Bandera close to 1604 and getting close to the Target area, and there's a lot of traffic backed up with all of the construction, and so they were waiting there for a while, and Abby saw this man who was standing with a sign over on the side of the road. And she, in a very inquisitive nature of a 5-year-old, kind of looked over to Lisa and said, "Mommy, who is that man? What's he doing there?" And Lisa kind of explained, "Well, that's a man who doesn't have a home." She said, "What do you mean he doesn't have a home?" And Lisa said, "Well, there's just some people that are in the world, they don't have a home, a place to be." And so she said, well, does he have food? And she says, "Well, it depends on people to kind of give him food or to provide money so that he can have food." And Abby says, "Oh, well, do we have $1 that we can give him?" And we don't really carry around cash a lot. We usually use card transactions or Apple Pay for everything. And so Lisa said, "No, I don't have $1 on me." And Abby said, "Well, I don't have $1 either." And she said, "Well, we should keep dollars in here so that if we see people that need it, we can start to give it to them." And it was this really beautiful, kind of authentic thing as Lisa told the story to me, and as Abby was sitting there and she's kind of beaming, and it was a real moment of childlike faith. It was this sense of phenomenal wonder with the sense of the world, the nature of the world, how it is and how we can interact and engage with it. It made me think about this passage that's in Luke 21, where Jesus is teaching a parable, and then it says that he looks up and he sees this widow come, and she has these 2 mites, these 2 copper coins, and she comes and she brings them to the treasury. And she goes and she drops them in the treasury as what she has to offer. And Jesus just makes a comment and he says, "Look at this woman." He says, "Look at all the other people that come that have given, and that have given so much more than her. But she has been more faithful than them. Because they had out of their abundance to give, and in proportion to their abundance, they gave little. But she didn't have hardly anything. And out of the nothing that she had, she gave it all." And it's this beautiful recollection for me of how we are called as Christians to really move beyond the bounds of where we are comfortable to give and to serve other people that are around us. And I think a lot like Abby, there's moments in our lives where each of us can kind of say, "Yeah, I don't really know what I have to give or what I have to offer." Everybody here is at a different phase in their lives, and some of us are younger, some of us are older, some of us are trying to accumulate wealth, some of us have already accumulated wealth. We're at different points of our own lives and perspectives, but each one of us has something to offer into the community of faith around us. This passage in James I love so much because it talks about the power of words. If nothing else, you have within you the power of words. It costs nothing. But with your words, you have the potential to change the world for good or for bad, for evil or for good. You have the potential and the ability to speak into the lives of the people that are around you each and every day. And in doing so, we actually participate in mission. It doesn't really even take much. It doesn't even take having $1 or having something to give, but the way that we treat one another, the way that we treat even the least of these around us. We've been going through the book of James in the last couple of weeks, and at the very beginning, in chapters 1 and 2, it kind of talks about this notion, this idea of, if a rich person comes into your assembly, how do you treat them? Do you have them sit up at the front and give them a place of honor? And if a poor person comes in, do you set them aside and say, "Well, you go sit over there until we're done over here"? There's this aspect within James of how we are as Christians, and our effectiveness as Christians in the world is directly related to how we treat those around us. And the way that we treat each other, it has no bearing on how much money we have. It's completely and totally up to us how we choose we want to treat other people every day. And in James chapter 2, it goes on and it says, any one of you in your actions, as you speak to those that are around you, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. And I've got to be honest, that's not always my standard MO. There are definitely times in my life where I would much rather be quick to become angry and then speak, and then maybe I'll listen. I think in each of our lives there are those moments. There are things that perhaps will really frustrate us, things that really bother us, things that really kind of get under our skin. And we take that in the opposite direction, but James comes and he says these things. He says, listen, and then speak. Because if we speak without listening, then our words do much power and harm. And then when you get angry, make sure that you have spoken first. Before getting into a situation or circumstance where you erupt in anger with those around you, speak and think about the words that you are using first. As this evolves and it develops, it gives us this greater sense of understanding of the impact and the power of the way that we act and treat and talk to people around us. It's phenomenal how much work we can do and accomplish nothing. And it's amazing sometimes how little we can do and impact so many. And today is Mission Sunday, and we do really have this opportunity, and I love it. I kind of told Lisa when she said, well, Abby was asking for dollars. I think we should keep dollars in the car from now on. I said, well, guess what? I said, tomorrow at church, we're going to, and then I talked about all the projects that we're going to be involved in and engaged in. And Lisa kind of made a comment to me, which I really loved, and she said, yeah, but is that going to go to somebody else, third-party distributor, or do we have tangible ability to do that? And I said, well, of course, you can make these at any point in time. You could make a pack hygiene kit that you could give out to the homeless at any moment in time. And if you have a desire to grab some of those and do that today, I encourage you to do that. We have a food pantry that we are able to go and support in. And if you have anything in your home that you know that you have of surplus that you're not going to use, we would love to be able to have that here because we're able to give that out to those that are around us. And here in this spot, in this time in the growth of our city, we have the potential to impact so many people that are in need all around us. And today we're going to get a chance to be able to do that a little bit, and we invite you and encourage you to come and join with us. But the work of mission is not just done on one day. The work of helping and aiding those in the community who need help, who are fighting and advocating for all of the rights that they believe are important to different organizations and people. We have people in this congregation who do phenomenal work, either down at CAM or with the Helotes Humane Society. They work with all these different organizations, those that work towards the advocacy of rights for MOJC, that work within the presbytery to find ways of establishing and working justice in the world. And so today, when you come into our mission time, we're going to invite you to come to one of those three tables. We're going to have three tables broken up for discussions. We've got leaders at each one of those tables that are going to talk to you a little bit about how we can get involved more in international mission work, how we can get involved in mission work here locally with Habitat for Humanity, how we can get involved with mission work here immediately on this campus, doing things like the food distribution that we've done and the food pantry, and even some great initiatives that we're looking at to give back into the community. It is our calling as Christians to be able to pour back out into others. The entire book of James we've been studying in Sunday school, and we come to the end of it, and it has a very abrupt ending in James chapter 5. And it just says, if any one of you is wandering away in faith, go to that person and bring them back in. And I said to our Sunday school class, I think it's a strange ending, but it's also very pertinent. Because in the book of James, this idea, I think, permeates with how we live our lives today. James is writing into a community that seemed to think, well, it's okay if we believe in our minds or our hearts the things that are important. If we go and kind of do the small steps that we need to do and go to temple and do some of the things here and there, then that's good enough. And James repeats over and over again through this book that it's not. That our job as Christians is not just to think the right things, to believe the right way, but to also act in the right way. To do and go into the world and share the means of God's mercy and grace and love. And sometimes that seems like it's the hardest thing to do, but sometimes it's really not. And so my prayer for you this week is, how can you help carry out the mission of God where you are at? In your home, in your work, in your school, with your conversations with your friends. Sometimes it's just taking a moment to lift somebody up. Sometimes it's just taking a moment to be quick to listen, to hear what somebody's going through without casting judgment on them. Sometimes it's going forward in action and step and being there for someone in a period of grief or loss. Sometimes it's in actually swinging a hammer and building a house for somebody. Sometimes it's in giving food. Whatever it is in the capacity of your life this week, where do you see God calling you to be the hands and feet of Christ in the world? James reminds us time and again that faith without works is dead. And while works isn't a salvific act, it is, in fact, something that we are called to in a deep tenet of our faith. And so my prayer for us as a church is that we would be impactful and engaging in the world around us, that people would stop and see who we are by the work that we do. Paul has this amazing comment that he makes in one of the later on epistles, and he says, always have a reason for the joy that is within of you to explain to others. And the language behind that is such that if you are a Christian, you are engaging in work each and every day, that people from outside of the world will look at you and say, what is it about you that's different? And that is when and where and how we begin to exchange in action in the world. St. Francis of Assisi probably said it best when he said, go out into the world and spread the gospel, and if necessary, use words. May we be moved by our feet and the times that we are called to actually speak. May we speak with the mercy and grace and love of God, because it is that message and that spirit that permeates all throughout our world as the presence of God and the kingdom of God made manifest for us. Amen.